Well, get those live vids zipped and clipped, strap down those rods, and stow away those tackle bags because we are going fishing. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Bass 2 Anglers podcast. I'm your host, Keith Niswonger, and I hope this episode finds you with 5 for 25 stored in your Bubba Pro Series Smart Fish Scales, integrated seamlessly with Major League Fishing Score Tracker. Folks, we got a very interesting episode for you this week. We are going to be talking about the science. Yes, I said the science of determining the monetary value of a professional angler. I've done a deep dive on how anglers can determine the value of their marketing efforts, and I think you're going to find it to be interesting. Daryl Burghardt, a Western pro and one of the very first pro anglers to figure out how to determine the value of a professional angler, will join us a little bit later in this episode. But first, CopperStateTackle.com has everything you need and a bunch of stuff that you didn't know you need. When you go to CopperStateTackle.com and use our promo code BTAP1, you're going to save 10, 15, 20, even 25% on your purchases. CopperStateTackle.com has an entire department dedicated to getting you your order as quickly as possible. CopperStateTackle.com. Tons of bass catching awesomeness. It's only a couple clicks away. Ducket Fishing's BD Popper. This bait delivers perfectly balanced surface disturbance that both intrigues and infuriates bass to attack. Available in an aggressive size 80 and a more subtle size 60, these baits are sure to become an important part of your topwater arsenal. Fish Ducket Baits. Check out the BD Poppers by going to ducketfishing.com. In one swift move, World Bass Enterprises has jumped in and rendered the two biggest tournament organizations to merely being qualifying tours for a real world championship. World Bass Enterprises is announcing this morning that it will conduct the very first World Championship Unification Bass Tournament at Tennessee's Old Hickory Lake. The event will take place October 26th through the final weigh-in on October 31st. Of 2026. The format will involve invitations being offered to the top 25 anglers in Angler of the Year standings for Major League Fishing's Bass Pro Tour and the BASS Elite Series. These top pros will compete over 3 days for a purse of $3 million and a chance to claim the title of Undisputed Bass Fishing World Champion. Finally, we will have an undisputed bass fishing world champion, and all it took was $3 million. Think about this. The major tours have battled over and over about which tour is more prestigious and what is best for anglers and so on and so forth, and it's gone on and on and on, and in one big swoop, World Bass Enterprises has come in and essentially said, okay, we'll crown a world champion for you. Just like that, the bass fishing world is unified under a single authority. Just like that, the major tours have been rendered to qualifier status. Just like that, the dust clears and we can finally see what a world champion in professional bass fishing really looks like. The event at this point looks like it's being funded privately, as no sponsors or partners have been announced. I mean, this is hot off the presses. But it is shocking that someone could come in and be able to seize control of the title World Bass Fishing Champion, and all it took was $3 million. I'm making light of $3 million, but really that's not a lot of money when you take a look and consider what's at hand here. If you'd like to see more about this, check out Tyler Brink's YouTube channel. Tyler broke the story this morning, and the bass fishing world is responding quickly. Jacob Wheeler has weighed in on this new world championship, and so have several other YouTubers. Of course, we're going to need to see how this all shakes out. I mean, who knows? But the idea that all it took was somebody putting up a $3 million purse and offering spots to the top 25 in the BPT and the top 25 in the BASS Elite Series, come fish a unification tournament, a unification championship tournament. Wow. The biggest story here, in my opinion, is how World Bass Enterprises, and they've got a website, you can take a look at them, World Bass Enterprises. But the biggest story to me here is how World Bass Enterprises could literally just swoop in and capture the two major tours, turning them into qualifying events for a real world championship. This is all breaking news right now. Let me know what you think about this in the comment section down below. Ducket Fishing's Super Sound Topwater Walkers. This might be the loudest topwater bait on the market. Powered by a unique internal rattle, this side-to-side walker can be cast a country mile to reach schooling bass or to hit an important piece of cover without alerting bass that you're in the area. Available in a 3 treble hook 110 version or its little brother, the 2 hook 95 Super Sound. These baits are going to put more fish in the boat. Fish Ducket Baits. Check out our website by going to ducketfishing.com. Let's open up a can of worms, shall we? I mean, it's just not going to be a new can of worms. It's going to be the same old can of worms that we open up. But it's been a while. So let's at least kick that can of worms around a little bit and see what comes out. Bass Tournament Payouts. It's time for us to make bass fishing a professional sport. Okay, I'm going to start with a question. What was the first tournament to pay out $100,000 to a winner? Go ahead and hit pause. Think about it. Leave your answer in the comment section below. If you get the answer correct, you get bragging rights. Come on. I mean, we got money. We just don't have that kind of money. If you get the answer right, you'll be excited to know that you got the answer right. That's the best I can do for you. Go ahead. I'll wait. Was it the BASS Elite Series in 2006? No. Was it BASS Megabucks in 2001? No. The 1996 Bassmaster Classic paid $100,000 to the champion. Yes, it did. George Cochran won that event. It was the first classic that paid out $100,000. Mark Davis won the classic the year before, 1995. He won $50,000. But that's still not the right answer. The first tournament to pay out $100,000 to the winner was the 1983 Bassmaster Super Bass Tournament on the St. John River. I said it, 1983. Ken Cook won that event, and the bass fishing world was a-buzzing about that kind of money. The Redman All-American paid out $100,000 the following year. It was 1984, and Shaw Grigsby took home that hefty check. I did a little IA research on that and found... What? It's AI? Okay. I did some AI research on the economics of that era, and here's what I found. It's kind of interesting. $100,000 in 1983 is equivalent to the purchasing power today of approximately $325,423. It's up about 225% over that 43-year period. So the $100,000 first place payout that we accept today in the tournament world got its start in 1983. Let that sink in a little bit. Look, it is really easy to manipulate numbers, to make them say what you want them to say. I mean, you can take statistics and you can twist them to say anything you want. But it was 1983 when the bass fishing world saw its first $100,000 first place prize. The Super Bass event was not a tour event. It was a one-off tournament that you had to qualify for. Still, the event had an entry fee, which for that 1983 Bassmaster Super Bass event was a whopping $1,250. 2006 was the first year of the modern elite level tournament. That was, of course, the year that the BASS Elite Series was founded. That trail and all the others, the BPT, the NPFL, and of course today's BASS Elite Series are all modeled after that original 2006 BASS Elite Series. Each organization has their own way of doing things. BASS removed entry fees for their BASS Elite Series for the 2025 season and this upcoming 2026 season, which has been applauded for a move in the right direction. It should be noted, however, that the total purse for a BASS Elite Series event is significantly lower today than it was back in 2006. Back then, the entry fee was $5,500 for an event. So it just stands to reason, if you're going to remove entry fees, you're going to see a reduction in the total angler payout for an event. Generally speaking, the typical entry fee for a professional bass fishing tournament that's going to pay its champion $100,000 is still going to cost anglers about $5,000 to enter. How can it be that in 1983 anglers paid $1,250 to enter for a chance to win $100,000, and in 2026 anglers are paying $5,000 for a chance to win $100,000? I'm down this rabbit hole. I might as well keep going. There's a lot of stuff down here. The national average price for a house in 1983, $76,000. And I know more than one guy that won a tour event back in those days and was able to pay cash for their dream house on their dream plot of land. The national average price for a house in 2026 is $427,000. I asked AI about the average cost of a bass boat in today's market. I got the following. The national average price for a fully rigged Elite Series level boat, including advanced electronics, often approaches or exceeds $100,000. Now, I think we all knew that. But the point is, guys were buying houses with their tournament winnings back in 1983 and, in that era. Guys were buying houses with their tournament winnings. Today, it would be hard to afford a new bass boat for that payout. Sorting through all my mindless blabber, the payout for winning a bass tournament at the elite level really hasn't changed since 1983, while entry fees have increased by almost 400% during that time. It can't be that bad, can it? Look, the world of professional bass fishing tournaments has always been, at best, a sleight of hand card trick. Tournament organizations want their pros to be viewed as living the dream, glamorous and professional. The professional image is what creates the credibility for these organizations. Advertise with us. Our anglers are real pros. Eating peanut butter sandwiches and sleeping in your van isn't very glamorous. It certainly doesn't portray anglers as professional. We can all go look at the professional tour payouts and try to figure out which organization has it right and which organization has it wrong. Each wants to tell you they create more value for the angler, or their payout is better, or their entry fee is lower. It kind of reminds me of the cell phone carrier ads. Extra this, extra that. It's still a phone call. In 2006, winners of the BASS Elite Series events earned $100,000 checks. Maybe that's where this notion that $100,000 is enough to pay a tournament champion started. And I know that over the years, there's been a movement to pay deeper into the fields. Pay more spots down the list so guys can at least afford to get home after the tournament. The bottom line is, I think we all want to see bass fishing become a professional sport. We all want to see professionals earn more prestige, and for crying out loud, we want to see them be able to afford to play this game. Okay, Keith, your first rule of ranting is that you can't just complain about something. You have to come to a discussion with a solution. Do you have a solution, Keith? Why, thank you for asking. Yes, I do. We're just throwing stuff out there right here. So let's think about this and see where it goes. I suggest that if a company wants to be a tour advertiser, wants to be a tour sponsor with BASS, Major League Fishing, NPFL, any of the big tournament circuits, the company should be responsible for sponsoring a team of anglers. Now, we had a similar system to this years ago with the FLW teams. Some people will tell you that that was the golden age of professional bass fishing. What I'm suggesting here is not quite the same. It's a little different. I think if Bass Pro Shops or Garmin or Lowrance or Stinky's Bass Sense wants to be an advertiser with a professional tour, they need to get on board and sponsor 3 to 5 anglers. That would include, at a minimum, the companies popping for a $5,000 entry fee per angler to fund the payout purse. It could start with a draft. There could be multi-year contracts. Pro anglers could hire agents, and boom, all of a sudden you've got yourself a real emerging league that would draw attention just because of what these highly paid pros are earning. You talk about growing the sport, folks would take notice. Anglers could then negotiate their contracts with sponsors. They could become free agents. Some names would obviously earn more than others, but the burden of tournament costs would be on the companies instead of the anglers. This is just me brainstorming right now. I see this as the responsibility of the tournament organizations. The tournament organizations need to create an environment where their anglers can rise to the level of being a professional. And I think that the organizations need to require their sponsors to be the ones that fund the prize pool. Not the anglers, the sponsors. I mean, think about this. You're getting advertising when you sponsor one of the tournament organizations, but you're not funding the prize pool. That money should come from the companies that are wanting to sponsor the tournament organization. I see this as the responsibility of the tournament organizations to reduce the financial weight that bass pros must carry. I mean, if we want bass fishing to be a professional sport. Caymas Boats, from the mind of Earl Bentz. Excellence, tradition, and service, all part of the Caymas advantage. On the water perfection. This is your next boat. Build your next boat at CaymasBoats.com. Trait and Chris Zaldain continue to hit home runs with their media efforts. First, it was the tournament live stream of Chris's tournaments, and now they've brought back their Bilge podcast. The Bilge went away for a little bit. I think maybe there were some hurt feelings or some ruffled feathers, or maybe someone just got their dander up, and the Bilge was put on the back burner for a while. Well, it's back. And let me tell you, nobody gets the guests that the Bilge podcast gets. Last week, Chris and Trait brought Tamika Tremaglio onto their podcast. Tremaglio is the former executive director of the National Basketball Players Association. She currently serves the global advisory firm Secretariat as their managing director. She is a heavy hitter. Her connection to bass fishing is that she sees the sport as an emerging league. That's a new key word, an emerging league with massive potential for growth. She's also the mother of Reese Tremaglio, a rising bass fishing professional who's way ahead of the pack when it comes to social media influence. It's likely a name you already know or you will soon know. Anyway, without trying to steal the Zaldain's thunder for this interview, that podcast is one you definitely need to check out. My fascination with Tremaglio's appearance on the Bilge podcast is that she's one of those rare individuals that understands and can assign value to athletes and leagues. As a former executive director of the National Basketball Players Association, she's an expert in value. It's a very thing that professional bass anglers have struggled with since the beginning of the sport. What we don't have in bass fishing is a scale of angler value. We are our own worst enemies when it comes to understanding our value. What should be worth $125,000 to one angler is often worth a case of crankbaits or several spools of line to another, we tend to give it away. Heck, we have a couple of Elite Series pros who paid for their own wraps this year because the league says you've got to have your boat wrapped. Watching that interview, Tremaglia's biggest criticism of professional bass anglers is that we approach our relationships with tour organizations from a standpoint of fear. Angler fear is, of course, if they speak out, they would be easily replaced by somebody else. You've heard that before. Oh, I don't want to say anything because I don't want to get in bad standing with the league, this and that, and so on. If you look at the angler agreement that these guys have to sign, there's all kinds of language in there that it's scary, and I get it. That's where this fear comes from. Organizations fear anglers ever working together collectively the way pros and other professional sports work. That's something that, as anglers, I don't know that we think about very often. We know our own fear, but we don't know the fear that the organization has. What if these guys ever get together and gang up on us? Yeah, that's something. The way I see it, professional anglers who have qualified for one of the coveted positions on these tours have all the leverage. This is something that we're going to talk about. Well, I am talking about it, but this is something to really think about that. And I want this to sink in. These organizations have made it very difficult for pros to qualify for their tours. Okay, that's fine. High standards are great. But once an angler has reached those high standards, that can't be taken away. You can't take an open angler and replace an Elite Series pro without an open angler. You can't just bump one in and kick one out. You've already established that your tour has the prestige of having to go through this huge, difficult qualifying process. And I think that's something that a lot of anglers that are on the Elite Series or even in the BPT, I think they've kind of lost sight of that. They think, well, I'm here, I don't want to get kicked off. Well, you can't get kicked off. Not if the tour wants to maintain credibility because of these standards of qualification that they have. Once you're there, you deserve to be there. I mean, think about this. What if a large portion of anglers decided that they were not happy with the current angler agreement that they all signed? What if they decided that, it's really not that fair and we should have a better agreement for all of us? What's BASS going to do? Take a bunch of open anglers and put them in the field and kick all these dissenters out? Well, maybe they could do that in 2019 when the league split up and many pros left to go to the BPT. Maybe then it was okay to bring in a bunch of open anglers or anybody else that wanted to fill the field. Maybe at that time it was okay. But BASS, as do all the big tours, need to maintain the integrity of their tour. And they want to maintain the integrity of their tour. They have these tremendous hurdles anglers must get over to qualify for these tours. And I say, once these anglers have qualified for these tours, now you got to listen to them. That was a great interview that the Zaldains did. If you get a chance to go to the Zaldangerous YouTube channel, check out the interview with Tamika Tremaglia. It's a real eye-opener, and I hope it's a sign of things to come. So what is angler value then? Well, what is real angler value? Now, I've been on an AI kick lately, so don't blame me for the numbers and facts I list here. According to AI, which is quoting from everything ever, I guess, a wrapped boat driving across the country makes about 70,000 impressions per day. They call them mobile billboards. So your bass boat and your rig, and it's wrapped, it's now a mobile billboard. It makes about 70,000 impressions a day. Next question I ask, okay, what is 70,000 impressions worth to a company over the course of a year? What's a dollar amount that 70,000 impressions a day would be worth to a corporation? Get this, between $150,000 and $300,000 per year. I was blown away. Now, it did say $75,000 on the very low end and $600,000 on the very high end. But those are some crazy numbers. And again, well, if Google says it, it must be true, right? The big problem with all this is that many companies in the fishing industry can't afford to pay an angler $300,000 a year. Many companies want to know, what is the ROI, return on investment? That's something they're going to throw at you, by the way. Anytime you go into a meeting asking for sponsorship dollars, they're going to say, what is the ROI? What's my return on investment here? Well, ROI is not always measurable. I mean, think about it. Does a company that advertises on a television show, how can they expect to know how many hamburgers they're going to sell because they advertised on this show? There's no way to chart that, right? So I'm saying that for wrapped boats, for example, mobile billboards, you really can't attach an ROI to that. It is exposure. That's what it is. How many of today's wrapped boats on any of the tours are fetching pros between $150,000 and $300,000? I'm going to guess not that many. So maybe Manny's stink bait isn't the right company that you should be pursuing. If you're looking for a company to wrap your boat, it's probably a better idea to look for a company outside of the fishing world. We call these non-endemics. Approach them with the idea you can provide them access to the world of the $1.2 trillion outdoor recreation industry. Yeah, that's what the outdoor recreation industry is. It's a $1.2 trillion industry. So what is access to a $1.2 trillion industry worth to a company? Is it worth $300,000? Think about that. Company pays $300,000 to have access to a $1.2 trillion industry? I'd call that a bargain. Reason number 8 that your next boat should be a Caymas. Caymas Cash. Do you fish tournaments? Now you have up to 10,000 reasons to run a Caymas. Today, many boat brands offer contingency programs, but none of them deliver bigger payouts than Caymas Cash. With over 1,000 sanctioned events each season, you could win $10,000 for a win in a platinum event or $2,500 for being the highest finisher in a Caymas boat. There are silver and bronze events that will get you paid as well. Check out our Caymas Cash contingency program by going to CaymasBoats.com and find out why it pays to run a Caymas. Folks, continuing down the angler value rabbit hole that we are involved in today, I wanted to bring in someone that I know to be an expert at determining the value that they can create for sponsors. Daryl Burkhart, a longtime friend, he's a Gresham, Oregon native. He fished the Bassmaster Tour, as it was known back in those days, 2004 and 2005. In those days, Daryl was known for his fully wrapped Bowflex tournament rig. Bowflex is an exercise equipment company, maybe not what you'd expect to see at a bass tournament, but that boat always caught people's attention everywhere Daryl went. Daryl joins us today on the Bass Tour Anglers podcast. Daryl, thanks for joining us.
Yes, thanks for having me.
It's been a long time. We've got quite a history. Back in the day, Daryl was a regular on my internet radio bass fishing talk show. We had no idea it was going to be called a podcast, but apparently that's what it is. So here we are. Let's jump right into this. Daryl, I'm of the opinion that too many anglers give away spots on their jerseys, spots on their hats, and of course their boat wrap. What are your thoughts about that?
It's 100% true. The worst part is I don't think we're ever going to be able to do anything about it. It just is what it is. Guys like to represent products, and I understand that, but they don't realize that for their efforts, they can get rewarded. And as you know, that's what led me to go out of the industry and try to work with companies that are used to exchanging cash for marketing instead of product.
Instead of plastic worms.
Exactly right.
Yeah, let's talk about it. You were one of the very first. You had one of the very first non-endemic sponsorships that I can recall. I mean, I'm sure there was probably somebody before you, but you back in was it 2004, 2005 worked with Bowflex.
Yeah, it was actually, I qualified for the tour in 99, 2000, and I
Okay.
funded that myself. So you're real close. Around 2001,
Okay.
2002 is when I decided I needed to try to find some dollars to help me continue to fish. I think what kind of helped me was, I was a business owner. I owned an auto collision center, and I was really used to people coming in and selling me marketing. For the folks that are young on this podcast, they might not even know what the yellow pages are, but they used to come in all the time and try and sell me ad space in the yellow page. And obviously the promise was is that it would help people find me. People could get in touch with me easier. The ad could say some things to the person when they looked your name up. I also had lots of companies coming in trying to sell me spots on park benches, spots on tee stands at golf courses, the outer edges of menus at local restaurants. So I was used to hearing um, offers to create top of mind awareness for my company, help me shine a positive light in the community and become integrated. So that information or that experience helped me think about how can I get somebody to sponsor me. So I thought to myself, what do I think when somebody uses the word sponsor to me? And lots of times I would have small clubs coming in, basketball or high school organizations or football or baseball. And when they would come in and ask for sponsorship, I felt like it was more of a contribution. I'd say,
Right.
okay, I'm happy to help because I knew it would help buy them shirts or jerseys or what have you, but I never really expected much of a return for that. So to me, the word sponsorship almost means a contribution.
Right.
So I gave that quite a bit of thought, and I said, look, I just need to go talk to a company like the people talk to me when they come in, wanting me to trade money for impressions or for a way to advertise or create top of mind awareness or drive traffic to my company. So I basically put together a presentation like that. I didn't go in and ask for sponsorship. I went to Bowflex Fitness and asked them if they would like to look at a seamless marketing package that would target a specific consumer group, and I called that group the outdoor-minded consumer. I told them I was going to use a platform of professional bass fishing. That would be my platform to then travel across the United States with a mobile billboard and some different handouts and coupons and a special URL on the boat, fishbowflex.com. And basically, I was selling them a marketing package that was seamless to them. I did all the work and I created awareness and I created impressions. And that's how they're used to getting spoke to. So when I said I can produce 149 million impressions for a year, and then I showed them what those impressions would cost, which they already knew because they were top marketing execs. And then I gave them a price, let's say $50,000 to create 149 million impressions. Well, they knew that was about an eighth of the real cost if they would
Right.
have went through TV, stationary billboard, radio, newspaper. We didn't really have the internet back then or social media as
That's right.
much. So it was really a no-brainer to them, and they understood that the impressions were quality impressions because they were coming from a mobile billboard, and a mobile billboard has a 5-day retention value versus a stationary billboard only has a 1-day retention value. And then they also realized that we could present a message to the consumer group while we were driving about the product, and it also aligned with people's passion. The outdoor minded consumer fish, they hunt. And when a company supports somebody's passion, they want to buy from that company. It really works that way. Absolutely. So when I went and saw Bowflex, I presented a marketing package to them for a dollar amount that was way cheaper than they were used to spending. So they said, let's do it. They couldn't wait to do it. Made perfectly good sense to them. So we moved forwards, and that was that. That was the first time I approached a non-endemic and I spoke to them in their language. And because of that, it was a success.
This is just fascinating to me. Now, was Bowflex? I mean, you're from Oregon.
Yes.
Is Bowflex a company that was located there, or what caused you to tie into that to them?
Well, Bowflex is in Vancouver, Washington, so they're only
Right.
about 20 minutes from me. I tried to think because I now considered myself as a national angler, an angler that was
Mhm.
going to be traveling across the United States. When I think about support, I think about three things. Are you a regional angler? Are you a national angler? Or are you just a local angler? And then the company that I would think about would have to fit along that line. So I did some research on Bowflex. They were an $800 million a year company. They literally spent $4 million a month in marketing. So I knew they had a budget. I knew they had a director. I knew they were aggressive in their marketing. I think I had three companies chose out at the time, and Bowflex was the first one I went to, and it was a home run right out of the gate. But now I consider myself a regional angler. So based on that, I've chosen companies that I can help from a regional standpoint. And I honestly and truly feel like any angler can do what I've done. Most all companies have some type of a marketing budget, some type of money that they've set aside to spend to create impressions or top of mind awareness in their community. They just need to know what tools are out there or what's available to them. And the one that always I draw to is the mobile billboard because I can guarantee that, if you understand what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
absolutely. Yeah, you're gonna be driving down a highway, and
Yes,
you are going to see these people.
yes.
To kind of do some research on this week's episode, I kind of dived into some AI stuff, and AI tells me that the typical mobile billboard today creates 70,000 impressions a day.
Mm,
And okay, I mean, I ask, what are 70,000 daily impressions worth to a company in dollars per year? And the number I got was $75,000 on the low end, $600,000 on the high end. And what just boggles my mind is that I think, and the reason I wanted to talk to you about this is because I know this is what you did, is that you can't go to Joe's crankbait company and expect Joe to come up with that kind of money. You need to find somebody that is used to spending this kind of money to get these kind of impressions. Joe's crankbait company, God, if you created that kind of traffic for him, he probably couldn't handle it.
right. Couldn't handle the exposure.
Right?
But I kind of just feel like our industry is somewhat ruined and in that area. And I gotta tell you, some of these companies are geniuses. They form teams. They posted on Facebook, be a part of our team, and they sold that individual a product, say a rod, at wholesale pricing.
Right.
And that's the same amount they were going to sell that rod to a store to. But you got to be on their team, you got to fly their flags, wear their hat, be a part of an organization or part of a group.
Yeah.
But the company itself, it cost them nothing because that discounted rod to you is what they sell the rod wholesale for to their companies, to the retail market and to a distributor. So it was a brilliant marketing strategy for the companies that decided to announce they wanted to form teams and offer the product at wholesale pricing in return for the shirt, a hat, or some type of exposure for them. So our industry as a whole is used to trading product for marketing, plain and
That's
simple.
right.
And it's very
That's
hard to fill the gas tank in the boat with product.
that's right.
So
Can't eat
you got
plastic
to,
worms.
yes, yeah. So you have to get out of the market. I try to tell just local anglers, the simplicity of it. One of my best sponsors, and I just signed my 8th year with them, is Weston GMC. Okay, it's
Oh
a
yeah.
truck company here in Gresham, Oregon. It's family owned. When I went to them again, I just put the numbers together. What I noticed is that they had a stationary billboard along a freeway here. So I called the billboard company and I asked, what is the cost of that location? Because they come up and they get to get renewed. So I found out what the monthly cost for that advertisement was from Weston. I asked the mobile billboard company what was the drive-by traffic, what were the impression counts, because they can determine that. Even with a stationary billboard, they can never promise you a sale. There's no way to track a sale unless there's a tracking specific part to the ad, like
Right.
say yes when you come in, and so on and so forth. But the buyer of the billboard knows my name is sitting there and thousands of cars are driving by every day. So they know it's creating awareness, and people are going to think of them when they go to buy a GMC. So I went to Weston and I put a presentation in front of them that said, I can actually create better impressions for you because a mobile billboard is better than stationary. That billboard on the side of the road gets looked at for a while. Then the consumer group kind of goes blind to it. If it's the consumer that's driving back and forth every day for work, they go blind to those billboards because they've looked at them so many times. So now I can create a billboard for you that'll be here, and then it'll be over here, and then it'll be over here, and then it'll be over here. And I can put out a message to the local consumer group that Weston supports outdoor endeavors. Okay, they're wholesome family events, and we can create awareness to people in the outdoor minded consumer. What do they need? They need trucks. They tow boats.
Absolutely.
So we created a program where we did fishweston.com one year, then we did huntweston.com one year, and then we did westonoutdoors.com one year. And I guess what I'm trying to say here is I didn't have to be a hunter. I'm not a hunter, but my wrap on my vehicle was huntweston.com, and that .com led the consumer to their website to buy. But it was about talking to that outdoor minded consumer group, the hunter. When I did my fishweston.com, it wasn't bass. I mean, it had bass on it. It had steelhead on it. It had salmon on it. It had every type of species we have in Oregon on it, because we were trying to put a message out to the fishing community, not just the bass community, but the fishing community. And the same with the hunting. The hunting had deer and elk and goose and duck. And then when we encompassed it into to westonoutdoors.com, we then included hiking and skiing and snowboarding and any type of an outdoor endeavor was a portion of that wrap. So that whole entire consumer group, whether they skied, snowboard, hunted, or fished, said to themselves, Weston GMC supports what we love to do.
Yeah.
And it's been proven that when you put that message out there, those consumers will go to you first. They'll think of you first. And so what I'm saying is you don't have to be a big name angler. I mean, when I went to Bowflex, I could have walked in and said I was Kevin Van Dam. They knew nothing about the fishing industry or who was making it or not. And when I went to Weston's, it didn't matter if I won tournaments. What mattered is I was going to put together a wrap on my truck that was going to travel throughout this area, and I was going to be an ambassador for the company. The stationary billboard can't do that. If I'm in a parking lot and somebody says, how do you like that GMC? Or tell me about some of the features of that GMC. Well, I can answer those questions. Those questions can't be answered by a stationary billboard. So when I brought this type of a presentation to them, and again, I showed them a better product for less money. And nobody's ever said no to me when I've showed them a better product for less money. So my relationship with Weston's has been great. I create local exposure for them. I've added some regional companies. So when I'm out, down in California and stuff like that, I can create exposure for regional companies. But just for an average angler that just wants to fish team tournaments, maybe a pro-am that comes to his town and stuff like that, you can get this kind of support because you're selling the wrapped mobile billboard. You just have to put the presentation together. You have to, show confidence and professionalism to the company so they trust that they're going to get that seamless program that you're promising. Companies are very busy. They don't want to take the time to do this. But if you say, I'm going to handle everything, you're going to sign off on the wrap, I'll have it designed, you're going to look at it, make sure it presents your message, then I'll take care of the wrap, getting it done, and then I will drive the vehicle throughout the community and create the awareness for you and be your ambassador. And we can also add this, or this, depending. I could add a couple promotional fishing trips for some of your high-end customers. I mean, I can go on and on. I created a lot of exposure for Weston's just doing a one-day car wash where we donated all the money to the Humane Society. And we set it up that every customer that came in with their dog got treats, and they drove through the service department so they could see the entire service department of Weston GMC. They were elated that the money was going to the Humane Society. The Humane Society had it on the news. You know, we raised
Yeah.
like $1,500. It wasn't a giant amount, but it created a major amount of exposure and some real positive light for the company throughout the community. And this stuff doesn't take a lot of my time, but it creates the value they see in me to want to continue the relationship year after year after year. So you don't have to be a big name angler to put some money in your pocket so you can ease your financial family stress of using your family money for your fishing. You open up a little account, you go to a company, you sign a $10,000 or $15,000 deal, you spend, you know, 3,000 to 4,000 of it on the design and the wrap and maybe a shirt and some literature to hand out, and the rest is your entry fee money. And now your wife's happy because you're using your sponsorship money. We don't call it sponsorship, but that's what, you know, that's what we
Yeah.
use it for. So I feel like anybody can do it in any community. I still own a collision center right now. I have one sign out front. So, you know, somebody came into me and said, hey, you know, for a certain amount of money, I'll wrap my truck with your collision center. So it's seen all over the community. I would take a look at that.
Yeah.
So any company that's integrated or want to become integrated in the community should be willing to listen on how they can do that through a mobile wrap. I believe
Daryl, the Bowflex wrap, and I haven't seen the one that you've got now, but the thing that always impressed me was, gosh, you talk about a billboard, people see it one time, it makes an impression, and then they kind of forget about it. If you're a fisherman, if you're an angler, and you see a boat that's wrapped like that, you're never going to forget that.
yeah,
You're
right.
never going to forget that. In fact, I'll post a picture on this of that boat. I was able to find one online, and I mean, you never will forget that. I mean, years after that relationship, there's still a Bowflex connection in my mind
Hmm.
because obviously bass fishing is so important to me. And here was a company that from the exercise industry of all things that got involved in it. Okay, so one of the things that I know companies in our industry, the fishing industry, love to throw back at you is, well, what's going to be my ROI? What's my rate? What's my return on investment? Is that something that how would you counter that question?
Well, if I'm out of the industry, like talking to Weston's, if Weston said, what would be my ROI on this? My question back then would be, what was your ROI on that billboard? Because they would be able to say, well, we don't really have a count, but we know cars
Right.
are going to buy it, and because of that, we're creating sales. And I would say exactly. Although I have tracked, and I let them know I will track any lead that I send here. So quarterly, if somebody calls me personally and says, hey, I went and bought a truck at Weston's or I bought a car at Weston's, I've had 5, 6, 7 anglers drive from as far as 3, 4 hours away to buy from Weston's. Even though they had a GMC dealership in their community, they wanted to buy from Weston's to support Weston because they
Hmm.
supported me. So I have tracked sales for them, and I let them know I would track sales for them. But the whole guarantee with the mobile billboard is I will create impressions. I guarantee you I will create the impressions. I can't guarantee you a sale. If I make an impression and a consumer comes to your business and your staff doesn't sell the truck to them, that's not my fault. I can only guarantee impressions. So ROI can be very difficult. Now with today, with social media the way we have it, and everybody tagging their own code, go if you go to GSM Outdoors or go buy a Yamamoto bait and use code C2389, then they can see their ROO,
Yeah.
our return on investment, because they can see that number tracks back to Daryl or back to whoever
Right.
posted that. So with social media, you can create some returns. You need to understand what your social media needs to look like. Like for Weston, if I've got 20,000 members in my social media on my social media page, but they're 20,000 people from the East Coast, it's doing Weston's no good at all.
Right.
So I had to, when I was working with Westens, I have a Westens Facebook page. I grew organically. So when I wanted to talk fishing or try to teach how to take your little one out to catch some crappie and stuff like that, on that site, I was talking directly to an organically grown Facebook page that was in this community. So there's a lot to think about, and trying to answer your question on the ROI. Uh, uh, it's not an easy question to answer statistically. I can just promise impressions.
Yeah.
I can show you the odometer on my truck the day we wrap it. I can show you the odometer on the truck after a year. You'll see how many miles was driven. We know that it's two-sided. We know that it can never turn off. It's on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and we can I can bring you real statistics of what the impression generation will be, because you could even go into ALI and narrow it down. What would be my impressions in Portland? What would be my impressions in Gresham? What would be my impressions in Boring? Because the impression count changes if you're in a large community or if you're in a rural area.
Right.
So you can really narrow it down, show them specific sources where you've got the sources to come up with the impression count. But most people that understand marketing understand that's what they're buying is impressions, and that's what they need for their business. But we can make it better because we can be ambassadors, we can do in-store promotions, we can do other functions that drive traffic over and above the wrap vehicle. But I can't make any other promises. I mean, I couldn't promise that I was going to win an event and get in Bassmasters magazine. I
Right.
couldn't promise that I was going to do anything. I did, I can promise that I'm going to be out there. I'm going to work hard. I'm going to try and create relationships with guys like Keith Neiswanger so I can get on a podcast and talk about different things. So all that's in my presentation, but that ROI is a tough question. But it's hard to answer. The big marketing companies can't answer it.
Well, but the thing I feel like the companies in the fishing industry, this has kind of become their defense, if you will. It's their countermeasure to make you take a pack of worms in payment instead of some money. Is that, well, what's going to be the ROI on this? And how do you diffuse that? How do you come back
Yeah.
and say, um, you basically said that. You said, look, we're going to create impressions. Your name is going to be, on this boat or whatever it is. And, uh, how does television do it? I mean, you see a commercial on a television, there might be a hashtag or whatever you call that thing that you can shoot with your phone, but most TV commercials, they're just creating impressions.
That's all they are. We did a Bowflex commercial when I was with Bowflex, and then I did get some ESPN time when I was on the tour, and I took a stopwatch and I clicked for how long I could see the word Bowflex. Then I clicked off. If it was 3 seconds, I could mathematically tell them how many impressions were generated. So we can do that through magazine based on readership. We can exchange those into impressions. So at the end of the year, when I was done with my first year with Bowflex, I proved through real statistics that I created 149 million impressions based on articles, based on the driving exposure, based on radio. But all that was put into a nice package with my sources and given to them. I will say with Bowflex, we did do the URL that was fishbowflex.com, and we directly sold right around $38,000 worth of product just off that URL driving down the road, just off of that, people seeing that and bought through that URL. So that was a source of tracking
Hmm.
our sales, but they just understood impressions and they understood what it takes, what they wanted. They wanted a positive impression. They wanted it to be associated with people's passions, and they knew that it was a value at what they were paying to get. In the industry, the things I've thought for years, and I'm not beating on the industry, but I've been with Skeeter Boats for a long, long time. Great company. I never went to Skeeter Boats until I documented about $500,000 in boat sales. And for me, it came by starting a club. This is back in the early 80s. In 82, I started a club called the Mountain Hood Bassmasters. We all had aluminum boats. And then we grew to 100, 150 members. And as one person bought boat from Nixon's, then another person would buy a boat from Nixon's, and then another person. So throughout that time, it was a great growth period in our sport. I documented, wrote down each person I had talked to or gave a demo ride in my Skeeter and so on and so forth. And after I had all that documentation, it was then I went to Skeeter and said, hey, could I be a part of your state team? Could I be a part of your national team? Can I start a relationship that I can grow with this company? Here's what I've done, just because I love the product and I've recommended it, so on and so forth. So that's how I created my in the industry companies that still to this day I'm partners with Yamaha and Skeeter. But what I always thought was kind of crazy is these organizations have these teams, and some of them actually have team directors, but I never felt like I was being utilized like a team member should.
Right.
So a couple years we formed a team Nixon's. It was called Team NMI, and Willie Nelson let me run that, and I utilized the team. I
Right.
utilized them at events. I made sure we had the variety of our brands up front, for people to see. I made sure that my team guys were knowledgeable on their product. I asked them, to be available for demos and so on and so forth. So I'm kind of amazed at some of these companies that have large teams and they invest a lot of money into them, but they don't have somebody running the team or making sure the team is giving them somewhat of an ROI, at least appearing at a boat show or being out there trying to run demos. Some of your most successful anglers, like right now, like Ken Ma, he works hard
He
and
does.
he's a great
Absolutely.
man at it.
Yeah.
But that's what it takes, the idea of asking for something for free with nothing in return is doesn't make any sense to me. I'm old school, you're old school.
Yeah.
It's just like work. We work for a living, we work for a wage. I don't want nothing. I don't want something for nothing. And I feel very positive when I do something that creates a win for a company. So we have to try to teach this generation that yeah, you can fish, and there's a lot of these young guys that can fish, but you're never, fishing may at one day get to the point where there'll be a Michael Jordan. I mean, there Kevin Van Dam and Rick Clunn and those kind of
Sure.
guys drew companies to them because of their popularity, their followings, but them guys still worked for those companies and they still uh, gave them their time. But you're not going to get support by catching fish.
That's
It's
right.
just not, it's not going to happen.
I think there's two things that we can take away from this conversation. First of all, uh, you have to find a company that understands marketing.
Yes.
I think a lot of companies in the fishing industry understand marketing. They understand it like a fox. They understand that they can give out free hats at an event, and you're going to have a bunch of people wearing hats around. Um, so within the industry, it might be kind of hard to find money, but
Yes.
you want to look for these companies, and probably everybody has a connection to something,
Right.
that you can look into and put together a plan. I think that's just some great stuff. And you made a point. It's not just about catching fish. I mean, really, if you're trying to become a professional angler, in terms of a professional angler, the fish catching is the easy part. It's how do you develop these relationships?
Mhm.
You got any advice for someone that's just kind of starting out and maybe has the fishing part dialed in pretty well, but still eating peanut butter sandwiches every night?
Well, always remember that you want to talk to a company in the respect to what you can do for them. Don't ever approach a company and say, "Hey man, can you give me or can I get or how do I get a deal or this?" Approach any company after you've given it some thought, and you have to be real and genuine about it and say, "You know what? I can create impressions for your company. I can drive traffic to your company. I can help get your product to be better known." But always go to them and let them know what it is that you can bring to them and help them with and help their company grow. And then talk about, what they can do in return for that. Just get rid of the word sponsorship altogether.
Yeah.
Try to understand a little bit about marketing. It's not hard. There's just keywords you have to learn. The word top of the mind awareness, they call that TOMA. Impression counts. Uh, You want to talk about driving traffic. I mean, these are the key words that they listen to say, okay, this person knows what he's talking about. He knows what we're going to expect. He's going to create awareness for us. It's going to be positive awareness. So learn some of that language. Do yourself a favor and just get a simple business card, because you never know when you're going to run into somebody
Right.
anywhere. When you're wiping your boat down and somebody comes up and he's got a little bit of interest, then you find out he's the president of Bowflex. You want to be able to say, hey, man, here's my card, my number. It don't have to say anything on it. It can say product spokesperson. It can just say Daryl Burkhart and a number. Just always be able to instantly respond by giving somebody something that they can reach back out to you with. Uh, just think about your community. I mean, I look around all the time when I'm driving. I look at the billboards and I see who's marketing in my community, and I think about it all the time. I really can't. I don't feel like I can do anybody any more justice if I sold any more space on my truck, because I really I try to keep it simple, because the mobile billboard requires the instant message just looked at instantly, and you know what it says. You can get them way too busy. You can get way too much stuff on them. But I could drive around and I can see lots of opportunities everywhere. It just, to me,
Yeah.
I just see it when I'm driving around. Companies that are spending money in the form of marketing, whether they're spending it on TV, radio, Facebook, or on the internet. Uh, Devise a plan, reach out to a company like that and say, hey, I can show you a very, very another good form of marketing. I think I can save your company money, but I can create a very positive impression for your company. And the next big key is you have to be talking to the decision maker.
Right.
You can't go in and talk to the sales guy at the front desk or the receptionist and here, hand this to the guy that makes the decisions, let him look this over. It doesn't work. The hardest thing, in my honest opinion, to get support or to sell a marketing program to a company is talking to the right person. They have
Exactly.
blocks up. They have people in there to try to block them. You have to be aggressive. And they like that. They like that person that'll be aggressive enough to try to get in and see them. And you just got to say, look, I got something I really think this person needs to see, but I need about 15 minutes of his time. Well, what's it in part? Well, what does that have to do with? It's just a seamless marketing strategy, and I think he would find this to be very positive for the company. And you just have to keep coming back until you can get to sit down with that person. Once you present it, and if that person says no, great. You presented it to the right person. It didn't appeal to them. It didn't line up with what they want to spend their money on. That's fine. But you're going to feel unsatisfied if you go to a company and you leave a presentation with the person at the front desk, because you're always going to wonder, did it get to that guy? Did he ever
Right.
even see it?
Right.
So you're just shortcutting yourself. You have to choose a few companies, look at their background, kind of understand their product, show them the impressions you can make for them, and then go in and just
Yep.
ask.
Yeah.
There's an old adage called "go for no." You have to go for no, because
That's
you'll
right.
get a yes.
Sometimes no is the best answer you can get, because you know you can move on.
That's right. That's right. But I think a lot of people fear it, and I understand it. They're afraid to go in and ask and put something in front of a person. But it's like it's like fishing. I mean, it's the craziest thing. I see guys get out in freezing cold sleet and hail and wind and death-defying odds to practice for a tournament, but they won't take a few minutes to go take some time and try to talk to somebody. And you might even know somebody. Just think about people you know. What kind of
Absolutely.
businesses do they have, and
Absolutely.
can you truly help them? I mean, people are going to know if you're being true to them and not just coming looking for money. But you might know somebody that owns a plumbing company, an electrical company, a contracting company of any kind, a roofing company, a gutter company, any company that you can create additional exposure throughout the community by driving your vehicle. To me, will be willing to listen and look. I think those little deals are worth about $15,000 a year. That's my opinion. That gives you about $5,000 to spend on the marketing side, the wrap, whatever else, a shirt, some handouts, some hats, whatever else to help promote the company. And the other 10K goes towards your expenses to be out there on that platform of fishing. Um, think about simple etiquette. I can't remember the guy's name, but back when me and you were doing this stuff in the 90s, there was a guy that put out a presentation, and I bought it, on how to act as a professional angler. And he said, always put your boat on the trailer and get as close to the weigh-in stage as you can. Okay. Always get out and wipe down your boat and leave your rods and stuff on your deck. Be very approachable. Let people come up to ask you questions, but don't be the guy that pulls out and goes all the way to the far back of the parking lot and start putting stuff away.
Right.
So that was a lot of stuff it taught me about how to be in front, make sure my products were exposed or the best exposure in the front. It was always clean. It was always organized. And then you've got to remember, you got a company's name on your truck. I've been driving Weston's truck for 8 years. I have to act very responsible when I'm driving. I can't get angry or have any road rage or anything like that. Their name's on the side of the vehicle. So,
Right.
that's just trying to just give out some of the best information I can give out. I truly like to help people with this. I think that there's a lot of money out there to help you follow your passion in your sport. And I think it would make life easier for families when some financial support can come in. And to me, it's like the Reaganomics or the trickle down effect. When we can teach and train people how to go out and get these $10,000 and $15,000 deals, it frees up monies for more rods or more reels or more worms or a better boat or more electronics. It to me, it can stimulate the entire fishing industry in a whole, when it's not such a burden on the family budget to fish and have the things you need to fish correctly. Mm-hmm.
Well, Daryl, I really appreciate you coming on tonight. It's been good catching up with you.
Yeah.
And this week I'm kind of down this rabbit hole about angler value, and I knew there was one guy I need to talk to, and that was you. And I sure appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, no problem at all, man. Anytime.
Okay, thanks
All
a
right.
lot. I appreciate
Thanks,
that.
Keith.
Reason number 15 why your next boat should be a Caymas: our high-speed live well pickup. Fish mortality is a big deal on today's tournament trails. Introducing Caymas's high-speed live well pickup. Now you can take great relief knowing that as you fly down the lake, your precious cargo will be getting fresh water to make sure they are healthy for the weigh-in scales. I guess we're going to call this part 3 of the Let's Get Randy Blockett inducted into the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame saga. Are you getting tired of this? Well, people are still commenting, and your comments, I gotta say, they trigger me a little bit. So this is part 3. If you're new here, one of my New Year's resolutions was to get Randy Blockett inducted into the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame for 2026. I guess we're going to start calling this, talking this into existence. In part for his amazing fishing career, and in part for his tremendous influence over the world of professional bass fishing via his YouTube channel. I'm back at this because I continue to get tons of comments, some agreeing with me, some who think I have a blanking screw loose. Randy's done more damage to bass fishing than anyone, to paraphrase a recent comment. Here's what you don't seem to get. Influential people are not always people that we like. We don't have to share the same worldview with someone to put them in the Hall of Fame. It's not the Bass Fishing Hall of those we all like. It's the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame. If the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame is for only people that we like and agree with all the time, the hall is going to be half empty. I am simply pointing out that the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame needs to recognize Randy's influence in our sport. So go ahead, let me hear you. Try to convince me that Randy doesn't belong in the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame. Bring on the comments. I'm ready. I also recently pretended to gift Greg Blanchard, the kayak YouTuber from Northern California, forward-facing sonar in 2026. You like how I pretended to gift? I do that in my holiday shows. I pretend to gift people various things. This year, I pretended to gift Greg Blanchard forward-facing sonar for the upcoming season. Well, he got it. I'm excited to say that Greg Blanchard has forward-facing sonar installed on his new kayak build for the 2026 fishing season. If you follow Greg, you know he's an excellent storyteller, and I can't wait to watch him as he learns this new technology. I'll go out on a limb here. Man, I'll say if you are trying to learn forward-facing sonar, you can bet his videos will be some of the most honest, telling, and informative videos on the subject. He's just so authentic. In his most recent video, he got out on Clear Lake with a chance to try out his forward-facing sonar unit for the first time. Watching him learn, it's already helping me learn. Greg is not controversial. He just loves to catch fish. I can tell you right now, I'm going to enjoy watching Greg on his journey, and I think you will too. I'm Keith Neiswanger. This is the Bass 2 Anglers podcast. Please remember to like and subscribe. If you'd like to reach us, please send us a direct message on Instagram at Bass Tour Anglers Podcast. Take care. Be safe. We'll talk to you next time.